it's Karen. For this week's video, I have a very special guest. He is the creator and executive producer of Kipo and the Age of Wonderbeasts, Radford Sechrist. Woo! If you guys haven't seen the final season of Kipo, it is up on Netflix right now. I think we'll be talking about some season 3 spoilers.
Someone do something! Kipo, that's your job.
Right. I don't want to spoil it for you guys, so go watch that on Netflix before you watch this video. All right, you've been warned. Without further ado, Rad! Rad, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we did Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con this morning, and we dove into some really interesting topics. So I am really happy to dive deeper into Kipo and the Age of Wonderbeasts.
All right, let's do this.
So my first question is, what were you like as a kid, and what were your interests?
Let's see, I always drew. So even from like a very young age, we had a rule in our house, like you could watch like an hour of TV a day, which was actually kind of great because I ended up just drawing like all day long. I lived like off in a place where there weren't a lot of kids around. So I kind of was just drawing all the time, which was cool, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it came into fruition here.
I also grew up like near the beach. So I did a lot of like surfing and hanging out on the beach growing up.
Were you on the West Coast?
I was, yeah.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Sounds like a fun childhood. I think I grew up, watching a lot of anime and reading manga. So I was not a very good artist, but I tried, and it was really fun to, be in my own creative space.
Yeah, I could tell you draw when we drew together that one day. I was I could tell that she draws.
I tried. Yeah, I tried very hard that day because I had to follow you. So, do you think that there are certain inspirations that you drew from, if not from your childhood growing up, or?
It definitely, by the time I got to high school, I got like really into skateboarding, and I was like skating all the time. I still skate actually to this day.
Wow, you sound like a super cool, teenager. Surfing and skating and drawing.
I was very nerdy though. Like I actually went to school for engineering, so I was like kind of a nerdy skater.
Not for animation?
No, I didn't go to school for animation. Yeah.
It can be done. You can do it all. That's crazy. Does that mean that maybe you didn't see animation as a career in the beginning?
I remember 1999 is when I graduated high school. And it was around when like Toy Story came out, and they kind of stopped doing hand-drawn animation. So like in my mind growing up, I wanted to be like an animator. But then I met an animator and he's like, it's gone, they don't do it anymore. So I was like, I guess I'll go do something else. And so I went into engineering school, and I drew all the time in school. I drew for the school newspaper, and I got published doing comic books my senior year of college with Image Comics. And I met some people doing comics that I visited a studio and I saw artwork on the wall. And I was like, wait, people get paid to draw still? Like I thought that went away, and they're like, no, there's other jobs. There's like storyboarding and character design. And so right when I graduated from college, I just moved to LA, and I was like, I'm gonna try to break into animation. That sounds cool.
So you mentioned that animation still exists, but something was dying.
Like if you remember the old movies, like
the Disney movies.
Yeah, the like Mulan or Lion King. They're all hand drawn. So people sit there with a piece of paper and they draw it. But then when the newer movies came out, like all the CG stuff, like Toy Story was the first.
It looks a little different.
Well, nobody's drawing every frame. It's all like built. So somebody builds it on the computer, and then you move it around on the computer like a puppet.
Oh.
So you don't have to sit and hand draw it anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I think today at the Comic-Con panel, was it Bill? Bill, our other executive producer, we love him. He mentioned that your drawing style is difficult for animation. And I thought that was interesting because I had never heard that before. And then you also mentioned this, sushi restaurant.
I'll get into that. So Kipo is actually one of the very few shows that's still drawn on paper. So like when we go out to create a visit Studio Mirror, we literally can flip through drawings of of paper, and there's like 22,000 drawings per episode, all hand drawn.
Wow.
But the style is kind of angular. So when we first went there, they were like, oh, could we like kind of round it out in more of a style, like if you've seen like Avatar Airbender?
It's amazing.
Because it's a lot of the same animators that worked on that are
In Korea.
work on Kipo. Yeah.
Wow.
So Studio Mir also did Korra. So at first they were like, oh, could we round it out? Because when they try to turn the head and the angles were like hard to move. And we actually did a test like that. And we were like, oh, it looks great. It looks amazing. It looked kind of like Avatar Airbender, which looks incredible. And I remember like the head of the studio, he looked at it and he went, it looks great, but it doesn't look like your drawings. And so he's like, just ask them to at least try it like that. So then they tried it. And then after they gave us the test where they did it with the more angular style, they were like, actually, that wasn't as hard as we thought it would be. It was fine.
Oh, so you created a new thing for them.
Yeah.
You know?
And then they were able to do it. Yeah.
I mean, it's so important because Kipo does have a very distinct look. All of the characters do, but especially Kipo with the hair. And I had never seen animation like that before, so I didn't know that was something that you guys talked about in the initial process. That's so cool. And then you were mentioning the sushi restaurant inspiration. How was that experience inspiring for you?
I'll repeat the story in case people didn't see the interview. So I was out to dinner with a friend who was an animator, and he was drawing with his pen where he would move his hand like scratchy like that. And I had always been taught to draw with like this kind of big flowy line. I just thought that was curious, like, why are you drawing like that? And he said when he worked at Dreamworks, back on all the 2D animations, if you had a drawing of one thing and a drawing of another thing, and you had to do the drawing in between the two drawings, that in order to get it perfect, you drew like that. Because if you drew like a big swooshy line, it's not perfectly in the middle. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I just tried drawing like that, and it just made my drawings come out looking like they look on Kipo.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's interesting. I should draw like that more. It's just a cool kind of look.
You kind of fell into it, and I love that it was, on a random day you didn't expect to come up with that, and then it just happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, and here we are.
There we go.
Myself included, even though I've worked on Kipo and I've worked on She-Ra, I still don't exactly know the specific roles and departments within the animation industry because you guys have so many. So even between you and Bill, both executive producers, but you fall under the title of creator as well. Yeah. So can you go, I guess, down the line and how long each process takes, what they do?
Yeah. The first thing is just selling the idea. So I had started by creating it as a webcomic. It's usually always easier to sell a project if you've made some type of product, whether it's a written book, a webcomic, a published comic, anything like that, a short film. So then I was able to sell the property as a TV show to Dreamworks. And Dreamworks will usually partner you up and start building out a team. So they brought on Bill, and then we kind of fleshed out the world and the story more. And then once we felt like we were ready, we went and talked to Netflix, and then they buy off on the project. And then we'll bring on even more people, so like line producers and more, like a full writing room and directors. And then we just sort of hit the ground running and started making the episodes.
And how many writers were on Kipo?
So we had Bill, and then we had Joanne and Christine, who you saw today. And Joanne and Christine kind of lead the writer's room. Okay. So if me and Bill are off to record or hang out with you, like Joanne and Christine are back in the writer's room, like running the writer's room and coming up with, the season and everything. And then me and Bill will come back and then sort of check in, okay, what are we doing this season? Yeah. And then like throw around ideas. And then also Bill will stay in the room if we're not out at a record as well. And then I would run around a lot with the check-in with directors, and I come from like a storyboard and art background, so I would work a lot with the storyboard artists and the designers, and then Bill would kind of work a lot with the writing room.
So if you have a group of writers, I would assume that everyone has, eclectic different ideas. Yeah. How do you bring all of those ideas into one cohesive show?
Yeah, it's interesting because like part of it is creating an environment where everybody is excited to bring ideas. Part of, I feel like, making a good show is almost your first instinct is to say, no, I don't want to do that. That's not what I thought of. And it's almost like you got to learn to shut that off and like turn into more like, okay, I had thought of it one way, but let me take a second and take in what you're saying.
Open and receptive.
Yeah. It's like, because you don't want to be too locked in what you're already thinking. You want to be able to kind of take a step back and, okay, what is this director bringing to the picture? What is the writer bringing to the picture? What is the character designers bringing to the picture? I feel like what makes a good show is everyone's excited and creative. You know what I mean?
And I guess at the end of the day, you know, all of their ideas fit into your vision. It becomes not only your baby, but everyone's baby.
Yeah.
So.
And it's interesting because there's different points where you make sure everything becomes cohesive. So everyone in the room will throw out ideas, but one writer goes away to do the first pass at the script. So that's sort of the first stage where at least one person makes sure that episode's cohesive. And then they'll bring it back and everyone will throw in ideas or do a second draft, and you have layers. And then once that script is done, it goes to the director. And the director is like another way to make sure it's all cohesive. And sometimes even the director will be like, oh, I feel like this episode we got off track on this character. I feel like they wouldn't do this. And then we'd all go, oh, we forgot that, you know? And then so every step of the way, it sort of gets
people that chime in.
Yeah.
I always get the question, how long did this process take? And I never know how to answer it because I am only there for such a small part of the creation of the show, especially in animation. And my next question, it kind of along the same lines as my previous one, is after you start writing, do you bring the actors in to do the voices and then you animate? And for us, we sent it to Korea for the animation. And then we come back in for ADR.
Right.
How long does that process take? How long did it take for us?
I feel like it was around 3 years.
Okay.
And I think I had sold it to Dreamworks maybe a year before that. Me and Bill were developing it. I feel like for a year before we got the green light, which means you go into full production. So another year on that, so 4 years maybe?
4 years of hard work, sweat and tears. What I love about Kipo is representation is at the forefront of the show. And that's not just about, you know, race and ethnicity, but it's about animals. And it's about LGBTQ rights and all of that. And it's done in such a beautiful way. And for season 3, we have a K-pop number with narwhals. How did you draw inspiration from that? Are there any animes or cartoons that you drew from? Yeah, the show is, in a way, it's set in LA, even though we call it Las Vistas instead of Los Angeles. So it definitely, we were like, well, it needs to reflect the world that we know. And I assume in 200 years, a better version of our world. I hope so. Yes.
Meeting like with acceptance of people and everything. Which was, it was cool, especially like even with the scene where Benson is meeting his boyfriend's dad and the dad is so accepting. It's like, yeah, I hope that's what the world is like in 200 years, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, a big one for the art style is, have you seen Tekken Concrete?
No, I haven't.
It's a really cool drawing style of animation. I remember going to college and my buddy goes, hey, do you want to come see this movie? And we went and sat down and they were playing Spirited Away. And feel like I just sat down and I was like, what is this? Like, this is insane. And it definitely, seeing that movie definitely like steered my art in a new direction. Before that, I kind of always was influenced by Disney. And then seeing that movie, I started just trying to find as much anime and stuff like Miyazaki movies and Fooly Cooly and all of that stuff after that. I love Miyazaki. I definitely grew up watching Miyazaki films, Disney films as well, but you know, Spirited Away, Castle in the Sky, Totoro is a classic. The one with the pigs. Porco Rosso, the Kiki and the Delivery, Do you know Doraemon? God, if you showed it to me, I'll show you. Yeah, I've seen this. I've actually never watched the cartoon, but I've seen the imagery.
I was obsessed with Doraemon.
Okay.
And it's about a boy named Nobita-kun. And one day he encounters a robot from the future, and this robot named Doraemon starts helping him out with all these gadgets from the future. And he has this magical pocket that just stores everything in there.
Okay, that's a good friend to have.
I know. And many Christmases, I asked Santa for this one item that's in the pocket. It's called Dokodemo Doa, which means wherever you want to go door.
Okay.
So you open the door and you imagine where you want to go and you're just there.
Wow, that's a good door.
Yeah, it is. and I wished for it so many times on Christmas and was so disappointed so many times, so many years of my life. But I was interested to see what you drew inspiration from because there are so many Asians represented on our show and the animators and the K-pop and everything. So
yeah, at home there's a lot of like K-pop. My wife is Korean. Yes. And so there's just pretty much BTS on rotation.
Is she a big fan?
She's a huge K-pop fan. So like we go to the concerts when they come, well, not anymore, but when they used to come to town, we go.
Pre-COVID.
And then like, you know, she tries to school our daughter in it.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Is your daughter also in?
She's 3.
She's 3.
So
okay,
she loves BTS.
Groomed into it.
Yeah.
I hear the concerts are crazy though. I mean, like fun. Crazy awesome.
Yeah, it's very fun.
With the light sticks and everything.
Yeah, it's a good time.
The K-pop scene in season 3 then, who did the music for that?
Daniel Rojas is our composer and he does all the original, or a lot of the original music. And he worked with, I'm forgetting her name. He worked with this Korean girl to make sure all of the Korean was correct. So she even came to the recording.
To make sure it was authentic.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Are you gonna do that one as a giveaway too?
Oh yeah, I can. I don't know if anyone would want them.
Yours looks nicer than mine. Look at that.